a good amount of people in. So thanks everyone for joining today's webinar about AI beyond the service, what power users know about AI. And today we're really going to be focusing on how AI can enable you to be the most desired person in the world for any company, for any client. How can you get 10 times more out of AI by using these like simple tricks that we'll share today? And to make it way better than our usual webinars, I actually have here a guest so that you don't only have to listen to me. So Henrik, welcome. And maybe you just want to quickly introduce yourself.
Hello, and thank you for the introduction, Dan. Really powerful. I'm happy to be here and really show and share why I identify as a super worker. That'll be cool.
Okay, wow. That is a equally powerful self-introduction back. I'll just add on to that Henrik, if you haven't met him yet and you haven't seen all of his sharing about his AI team on LinkedIn yet, that Henrik is the head of future of work at Sodexo, a $10 billion plus company based out of France and also present in Stockholm where he resides. Really focused on strategy, operations, and people. And recently really has been focusing on combining his brilliant human vision with his AI agent team and all the things that enables him to do way more than before, be more creative and all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure he will show today. And has been featured by a bunch of titles and, generally celebrated as someone who is not just talking about the future of work, but really living it. And then in the same way, if we haven't met before, I see some people that definitely have met me, but if we haven't met before, I have an advertising background. I quit my corporate career about 8 years ago, focused on a happier future of work. One of the things that we did to really help people to create more happiness in their work is to give them this AI team. We started this program called Lead with AI last year. And since then, we've trained over 500 people at companies like Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Toyota, McKinsey, L'Oreal, GSK, Siemens, and many more, and Sodexo, obviously. And you may have seen me in some media, at some conferences, or on LinkedIn, where I'm also spamming a lot of people about the future of work. So that's it about the two guys. Now let's talk about the content for today. We basically chopped this session into 4 sections. The first one is really about this era of the AI leader. So even though AI has been around for a while now, why is this now? Why is this moment in time such a real AI moment? Then we're going beyond the AI service. That's the real promise of today, going beyond just the basics of AI and really looking at how do the best people use AI as a way to be, again, more productive, more creative, more strategic, and just be way more competitive in the market. I'll show you a very simple checklist of how to become such an AI leader yourself. And we're going to be keeping as much time as possible at the end for Q&A. So if you want to put questions throughout the sessions in the chat box, together with the spam that all the AI note takers surely will be leaving, you're definitely very welcome to do so, so that we can pick out the questions that are most beneficial for everyone when we get towards the end. And yes, I will send you all the slides. I'll just say that up front. Actually, I forgot from last time. I should put this on every single slide. This will be emailed to you. Yes. So if you have that question, then hopefully it's answered here already. Yeah, we'll send all the slides, and the slides have all the links of all the resources, and we'll send a recording of the webinar as well. So, okay, with that said, let's talk about this era of the AI leader. So why is it so different now from even just 2 years ago? I think the main difference to me, what really stands out, and maybe people like Henrik and Gwen and others who are on the call can say yes or no. To me, what really stands out is this pace of acceleration. I think we haven't really seen anything before, and I've been in digital transformation for so long. We really haven't seen anything at the caliber of where AI is right now, from 2 years ago when we were just like typing things into some chat box on an empty page and getting some words spit back at us, to an AI that can see and hear and speak, the multimodal AI, making it real, so real, almost human. And now 2025, seeing all of these AI agents come to life. So Deloitte research shows that now 26%, 1 in 4 companies are either exploring or already implementing AI agents. And these are the kind of AIs that can do the work fully autonomously without us humans. Very scary. And so now we're at the point where just with a single prompt, AI can, if we go from the top left side, AI can generate any of these videos that you're seeing. That's all created by AI. It can create infographics, social content, all of that created by AI on the top right side. Bottom left side, we have Manus AI. You may have heard about it. Can take just a folder of PDFs with resumes and read through it as if it is a human, and then rank the candidates and do all kinds of actions based on what it has read. And bottom right corner, Lovable can create an entire website of app, all from just one single prompt, from one single instruction. AI can do all of these things. So when we think about like how powerful AI has become, the big question obviously is then who will manage that AI? Who will tell AI? Who will prompt AI what to do it, right? These systems are brilliant. They can do anything. Who's going to tell them what to do? And so Josh Bersin calls that the super worker. So Josh Bersin, HR guru, consulting guru, ex-Deloitte, now on his own, says the super worker is someone who uses AI to dramatically enhance productivity, performance, and creativity. And no wonder that Henrik says, I consider myself a super worker, so productive, performs so well, and so creative and strategic. So Josh Bersin calls it a super worker. This is the person that basically stands at the top of an org chart of AIs. Jack Claude, who the co-founder of Anthropic, the makers of Claude, calls it manager nerds, kind of different term, same idea. He says it's going to be the era of manager nerds, where being able to manage this fleet of AI agents, all of these AIs, and orchestrate them, that is going to make people incredibly powerful. So these AI super workers or manager nerds or whatever we want to call them, they stand amongst all their AI tools, all their AI assistants and automations and agents, and create the kind of output that someone without that AI team couldn't make. And that obviously is something that you would want too, because you also want to be as competitive as possible in the marketplace or in the job sector. And so we have seen now from research that this is not just an idea, this really is true. So Ethan Mollick, AI professor, did a study together with P&G, Procter & Gamble, the big FMCG conglomerate, and they showed that someone, just an individual with AI, is now more powerful than a team of humans. So one person with an AI is more powerful than a team of humans, and this was done on innovation. So you see that it's actually really creating real value. And that's why even last year, you already saw that 66% of the people, this research from Microsoft Work Index study, 66% of hiring managers were saying, I don't want to hire anyone that doesn't have AI skills. At that point, 71% of leaders already said that they would be more likely to hire someone who's more junior, but with AI skills, than someone who's more senior without AI skills. That was last year. Just 1 year later, 81% of hiring managers are now prioritizing those AI-related skills. So this is really becoming hygiene. And that's exactly what Toby Lutke said, the Shopify CEO. He said, this is now a baseline expectation. Maybe last year when we were experimenting with AI, kind of the J&J 1,000 Flowers that Henrik spoke about recently, right? Maybe it was kind of like experimentation. He called it tinkering. Now it's just a standard expectation. And he even said, don't propose any new headcounts before you have shown me that you cannot do it with AI. So what do these AI leaders do differently? How do they go beyond the service of AI? How do people like Henrik do so much more with their time and are so much more capable beyond what we maybe see right now from AI? And there's really only three things. So I'll share you just like three things that these AI leaders do differently. And the first one really is embracing AI as a team member, not as a piece of technology. So I see really the big shift when people go from an AI beginner to an AI leader is the shift from seeing AI as a piece of technology or a software to really AI as a colleague. This is really now a team member that I work with. And we obviously know as senior leaders that if we want to get the best out of a human, we would delegate well. We would give a lot of context. We would give really good instructions of what good work looks like. And that's exactly what you see these AI leaders do. They get really good at prompting. If you've ever seen those like really, really long prompts, that's what the AI leaders do differently. We do that because if we put really bad prompts into an AI, we get very typical generic stuff. And then people say, oh, AI creates such generic content. Well, let's review your prompt and then see what AI did or didn't do, right? So we use a framework called Kodu Super Prompting, which is basically just to say, give as much context as possible so that AI has the information that it needs to do its work really well. So that's one thing that AI leaders do very differently than AI beginners, is that really using AI as a team member and delegating the work rather than just giving very short prompts. The second thing within that is that they don't use it just as an army of very intelligent interns, like I think how most of us are using it, but they're using it really as a very valuable thought partner, right? AI has consumed all the knowledge in the world. And so you can ask AI to channel, maybe I have a problem in my team, pretend that you're Adam Grant and help me solve this problem in the way that he would do it. Or I had a really shitty day at work. I had to listen to this webinar about AI. Imagine that you're Brene Brown and counsel me through it, right? You can ask AI to basically channel anyone and be a senior advisor to you, not just an intelligent intern. And that's why I love this quote from Jules White, who basically is saying, it's not about just offloading everything to AI. We actually want to use AI to take care of all of the kind of administrative work and all the stuff that we shouldn't be involved in anyway as senior leaders, and actually use AI to think more and better instead of less. So the first thing that you really see these AI leaders do very differently is treating AI as a team member, really as a companion in all the work that they do, not only the more junior work, but also the more senior work. And the second one, and we'll get to Henrik's demo, is hiring AI for all of the GED work. So the other big shift that I see when people go from an AI beginner to an AI leader or an AI expert is that they go from just using this one tool to having an entire team of AIs around them. So you saw the chart earlier, this entire team of AIs that can do so many things that they're doing. But the one thing that they do very differently from most people in AI is they're not starting, and Gwen, you inspired this slide, so it's good that I'm seeing you. They're not starting with the tool. Oh, someone told me this and this AI tool can do X, Y, Z. No, they're starting with the task. They're starting with what is the kind of work that I'm spending too much time on that AI could do really well. And the kind of work that AI can do really well is that GED work. So general, meaning is it something that a smart generalist could do? Is it error friendly, meaning that you are still the human in the loop? You're going to be checking the work of AI. And of course, is it digital? If it's general, error friendly, and digital, then typically AI can help a lot, can either collaborate or it can support or maybe even take over the work. And so that's the second thing that you see, these AI leaders that have been training themselves on AI that they do very differently, is they're starting to make it a habit to offload all the work that is general, error friendly, and digital to AI. And it becomes kind of like pattern detection. You have one use case, it spurs another. You think, oh, if AI can do that, then I can probably do that too. And before you know it, you're embedding AI in everything that you do. So that's the second thing. I'll share a little bit more on that. But first, I'll hand it over to Henrik to show that all sounds great in theory. Now, what does that look like in reality?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dan. And probably fun as well to say that before, preparing this meeting, I had a few proposals on how to do this for Dan, and he said, "Don't give me a heart attack, Henrik." So we'll just have a look at some parts of the actual. Do you see my screen now, by the way?
Not yet, but
all right,
we're very patient people.
Because something happened. I thought you kind of shared my screen, but you didn't. So here we go. You should be seeing my screen right now.
Yeah, so it's coming up now. Perfect. Yep.
So this is the usual frame that I see when I'm working with my team. You'll see in the top list a few of the tools, of the AI tools that you recognize. On the left-hand side, you recognize ChatGPT from OpenAI. What you see in the list to the left is something that I'm going to introduce before we actually use it. So having spent a year now really investing myself into the world of AI, I have been working a few months on really understanding how to be the human in the loop, working with and within tools or thought partners, as you see in the top list, for example, Gamma, ChatGPT, Claude, Veed, Lovable, so on and so forth. But also over the last months, something more incredible actually have been done. And what I did, because the prompt engineering leading practices were issued a couple of months ago, kind of really heavy reports on a few hundred pages on how you actually do prompt engineering and how you work with your agent team. So what I actually did was that I uploaded that to OpenAI and asked it, analyze all my prompts that I've done in OpenAI and come up with 10 proposals on how to improve and what kind of my blind sides are. It did. And then I asked it, okay, could we kind of mitigate those weaknesses in developing new agents for me? So custom GPTs or agents. And it did. So we did that for 60 minutes or so. And that's the actual list you see in the left-hand side. So these on the left-hand side are my most frequent use cases that I have for OpenAI. And I'm going to just showcase them live a bit on how to work it. So introducing them one by one really fast. I have, for example, a LinkedIn content strategist that's trained on how I usually use my words and my writing and my tone on LinkedIn. We have the strategic framework builder, and that's really good to have if you're working in a similar strategy consultant role, or even if you are a strategy or management consultant. Product and service developer GPT, the AI-aided board advisor, pitch deck, creative brand voice generator, and the future trends analyst, and the startup and the business developer. So the two last ones are what we're actually going to have a look at today. So they are pre-programmed and they are trained and they're uploaded with a lot of materials on that. So I'm just going to click here on the first proactive proposal that it throws at me. And what's a weak signal in the future of work that I should know about? Let's check it out, what it says today. So there's a rise of boundary work roles in distributed organizations. That could be interesting. So the actual signal is a growing number of organizations are hiring or organically creating roles that sit at the intersections of functions, teams, or geographies, like head of remote experience, collaboration architect, workplace anthropologist, or a cross-functional liaison. These aren't traditional managerial positions. They are designed to maintain cohesion and narrative clarity in distributed systems. For example, GitLab's remote work enablement teams or Dropbox virtual first operations groups. What it means is that companies shift to hybrid or distributed models, so on and so forth. I'm not going to read in detail here, but it works on really explaining this early signal from a future trends perspective. And why am I showing this? Because I just want to show how this agent now details and lays out the actual content for this early strategic signal. Here you can see the optional response or the use case, where in a strategic workshops or leadership offsite, identify where coordination breakdowns are most common, so on and so forth. There are strategic analogies that it develops for me. So I'm happy with that. Let's play with this. So I'll just take a copy of that and put it into to my startup and business validator GPT and ask it to develop a startup on that idea and hit go. So we'll start working on that, because the same thing happens here. This is a pre-trained agent on a lot of use cases and a lot of reports and research, where it now works on the problem hypothesis and figures out that distributed and hybrid teams suffer from coordination breakdowns, loss of shared context, and cultural drift. Traditional leaderships and productivity tools fails to address these invisible organizational gaps, leading to missed opportunities, misalignment, and slow decision-making. So it compares with evidence from real-world signals, online behavior, hiring trends, looking at internal champions that already exist informally, conversations in forums, really analyzing that, seeing the friction point, the pain signals. No one owns the gray zones, cultural decay at a distance, meetings without memory. There are some red flags on this idea. There may be a vague return on investment forming such a company. There may be organizational readiness that actually varies to see the need for this. But the signals of real demand is like GitLab's remote work enablement team, not just tooling, but behavior design. For example, Shopify's employee experience unit that has roles bridging HR and so on and so forth. So it delivers me a conclusion that the problem is real, especially in mid to large remote organizations, pain signals clustered around coordination, friction, so on and so forth. So I'm happy with that. I'm not going to take it to another agent, because then we're going to give Dan a heart attack here today. So let's see here. Here we go. Look at the problem hypothesis. Then we move into Gamma, just to visualize this idea as a business idea or a startup that we would like to do. Choose paste in text. And then we go into the response that my agents have collaborated on delivering on this startup idea. And we go with the presentation mode, and we do continue.
And Gamma, for those who don't know it, Henrik, how would you describe it?
It's my PowerPoint to production colleague. So, for example, if I would spend 4 to 5 days on a keynote presentation before, this one delivers what I need in a few minutes. So I'll choose preserve because we already have all of the content that we do. I think we'll go with English, or should we do Dutch for you, Dan? What do you think?
English is fine.
All right. 8 cards, that's fine. I think that you'll be able to do that pitch on this fast idea here. Let's go with light color coding, because I really like light presentations. I don't like them when they are too flashy and too colory. So let's go and generate the startup business pitch deck on that idea that we saw a weak signal on a few minutes ago. We could have, of course, we could have chosen to go by a few more of my agents, like the strategic framework builder or the service and concept developer agent, to really refine this content. But I do think we will, come a bit, on the way here, really showing how we can work in an agentic work style with me in the loop, with my agents. And here we see now on the screen how this problem hypothesis around distributed and hybrid work is being developed as content in a real PowerPoint production mode. So it starts writing the content. It lays out what my agents proposed a few minutes ago, and it adds pictures because I have the standard format with AI generated pictures. We could also use, of course, stock photos to make this happen, but this time we will go with the AI generated pictures that really builds the message here. So what you will see here is that it uses fonts. It corrects and aligns all of the boxes, chooses the font for you, and in a really good color scheme. So all of this work that you spend so many hours and energy and frustration on is being taken care of. You don't even have to do your straw man to really build this layout for your pitch. So here we go. It's coming to the end now. We're producing the full pitch deck, and we will be ready to go here quite soon. As you
and
see,
anyone who's on the call can fund this idea, right? This is live fundraising as well.
Yeah, live fundraising. I open up my bank account, and it's free to just transfer some great investments into this startup idea. Of course, Dan, good idea. Forgot to say that. So now it says that my Gamma has finished generating, and what I would like to do is just to export it. I think I'm not going to choose a PowerPoint this time. I'm going to choose a PDF document, and it kind of exports the PDF, makes it ready for me to just to send it off to the people who would like to see what I've been working on over the last minutes.
Amazing, amazing. And I already saw some questions, and so we'll definitely get back to those at the end of the webinar. Let me just kind of share again for context. What we're really seeing here is someone who, probably Henrik, you would say you're not just using AI once a week, right? Now that you've discovered all of these capabilities, it's not like, every now and then you turn to AI. Would you say you use it pretty much daily?
I do use it very much daily. And I think that's the thing, Dan. I've been sharing that with a few people over the last weeks, is that, there is a huge difference on how I work now when I'm human in the loop comparing to a year ago. But just a few months ago, I thought it was more, mostly because of all of the AI agents and the more efficient workflows I have, and how I'm getting more and more, I would say, creative with help of talking to the advanced voice mode, for example, or writing to it. But the actual major shift is that I actually think when I write with the AI. I think when I speak to the AI, and I do that 1 or 2 hours a day. I didn't do that before. I think that's the big
Very
shift,
different.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very different. Yeah. So that's what we see too, right? There's research from Anthropic and Asana basically showing that again, the more of these use cases that you find out, the more you benefit from the technology, right? Not just linearly, but really exponentially. What we're also seeing, and I think that's what Henrik highlighted here too, it's not just about working quicker, right? It's also about like expanding your capabilities. It's about doing things now that you couldn't do before, right? Maybe you were a brilliant slide designer, but I think many of us would have wished for someone like that to just take their content and turn it into really beautiful slides, right? And now you have that with AI. And you're really seeing that, like, yeah, AI can do all of the kind of generic general work that you need to do, like emailing and meeting and writing. But AI now also becomes, and I've listed some of the tools that are kind of the favorites of people who have gone through the program, is a brilliant research assistant, right? Something like Perplexity or ChatGPT Deep Research. Suddenly you have a brilliant researcher by your side 24/7, right? Presentation maker, as we just saw, image creator, video, right? Create a video version of yourself, even coding, right? AI can now do so many things that you previously couldn't do before. So it's really about expanding the capabilities just as much as it is about just doing the work that you were doing already faster and better. So that's really the second thing, right? Out of these three things. So really focusing on AI as a teammate, using AI as a team member, then really building that AI team, right? That kind of like do all of the GED work. The final step that I see people, and we just saw it basically in real time. The final thing that I see these AI leaders do differently is building an entire personal team of AI assistants, right? So not just sticking with what comes out of the box, but really personalizing it for themselves. And so we're going from the off the shelf, here's what ChatGPT does, or even here's what a Gamma does, now really personalizing and making it their own so that you get so much more out of it, right? That last layer of the personalization is really where the major benefits come in. And that's how I almost say that's really that idea of you're so above the service, right? But then when you go below it, as Henrik was just showing, that's where the real value lies, right? So we look at things like building those AI assistants. So Henrik already just showed you all of these personalized AI assistants that he built. I have a few as well. I have a virtual version of Matt Dixon, for example, who is a great sales coach. I can just step into him without having to brief, without having to give context, without having to explain what my products are, what are my value proposition, what are my USPs. He already knows all of that. Every time I invoke him, I get an answer immediately without having to brief. And that's really the combination of developing a really good prompt. And I'm sure for Henrik, some of your GPTs too will now have really long prompts that you've optimized over time.
Yeah.
There can be an optional knowledge base. But these are now, again, ready to go, as you just saw in the example. Then when you're using AI assistants a lot, you realize at some point there are probably assistants where you don't even need to be involved in the first step anymore, where you don't even need to give the trigger. And that's where the AI automations come in, right? So some people in the AI team, or some AIs in the AI team, I should say, basically start to do the work based on a trigger. So if a certain condition is met, the AI just does the work. And this is really where it starts to become more hands-off, where you don't even have to give the go signal to do the work. It automatically starts to do it. And that's platforms like Zapier and Make and N8N, and not even that technically complex. But you can do things like, for example, if I have a sales call and there's an AI note taker, like many AI note takers are here today, and there is a full transcript of that sales call, why would I, as a human, then go through that and try to remember all the details and write a nice follow-up message highlighting what was discussed or putting together a proposal? So we can just build an automation that takes that transcript automatically and turns it into a follow-up message, turns it into a proposal that's ready for you to edit. And obviously you're going to wait a few hours and make it look like you slaved away the entire night before sending it to your prospect, right? But that level of like, oh, now the AI, I don't even have to tell them what to do. It's kind of like anticipating my needs. That's again where the real value comes in, where you really see the difference from the AI beginners to the AI leaders. And the final one being AI agents. So this is something that even last year was really just an idea, was really just something OpenAI said, oh, the next level of AI is going to be AI agents, and they're going to be autonomous, and they're doing all kinds of work by themselves. And everyone said, yeah, that's fine. Sure, that will happen one day. And then it just started happening, right? And now it's just something that every company is looking at. How do I get more agentic AI into my company? How do I get more agentic AI into my workflows? And that can be something as simple as now available on every Plus plan, the ChatGPT Deep Research, right? Instead of ChatGPT just doing one quick web search, it can now compile an entire report for you based on 80 or even 100 different resources, compiling it all into a beautiful PDF that you can now download and send and share. That can also be the starting point for further investigation. So every time you're discovering or going into a new market or launching a new product or just having any kind of idea where you need to get a briefing on something, maybe a customer you're going to be talking to, dive into deep research. And it takes sometimes 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? But then eventually you get that very detailed report and you just have something that, again, you would never have been able to. It could have been like 2-3 weeks of work to pull all of that together. And now without all the frustration, AI can just do it. So that agentic layer is making it even more powerful. So again, we're seeing that most hiring managers, they're now looking for people with these AI skills. And I think if you see all of this and you see Henrik's AI team in action, it's not really any kind of question as to why, right? Obviously, you would want people like that rather than people who may be really good, but they don't have any of these AI capabilities. And maybe even if after all of that, you still feel like, maybe right now I kind of hear it, I kind of see it, it's not really that urgent yet. That's kind of where I was a year ago. But if you see it again, going back to the very first slide, the pace of change, the acceleration in the AI capabilities, the things that are possible now that weren't possible even 3 to 6 months ago, I can really see that just 6 to 12 months from now, if you don't take the action, you're really going to find it hard to compete against people like Henrik and Gwen and others who have trained themselves on AI. I think that gap is going to be harder and harder to close. And so I'll link this one as well. Again, I'll share all the slides. I love this blog post from another AI professor, Jeremy Udley, who basically said, this is the time to take your own job before someone else does, right? This is kind of your innovator's dilemma, Instagram versus Kodak moment, right? You now have that chance to reinvent yourself and to basically create a version of you that is AI powered, that can do everything faster and that is more creative and has more capabilities and has higher quality of output. That is now possible with AI. So I'll conclude there really just to say, again, leaving most of the time for questions today, there's really only 3 things, right? I know, as we go through the program, as we go through the exercises, it does take a bit of work, but there's really only 3 things here that are really different from the normal AI user to a real AI leader or a super worker or a manager nerd or however you want to call it. And that's really that idea of this is now a new colleague that is by my side to do all the work where AI could play a role, right? Then basically getting AI to do all of that GED work in all of the different tools and platforms that are already available to us today, all the way down to really building that personalized team, right? Where it starts to go from what's available off the shelf into, okay, now I have my personal assistants, I have my automations running, I have my agents, and you really get to this place where just as one person, you get so much more out of AI than if you were just using kind of like the standard, ChatGPT, no memory, and just give it a couple of simple prompts, right? There's like a lot more that you can get out of it. So again, most of the question for Q&A already saw some great questions coming in. Just to share with you, so again, after the session, you'll receive an email with the link to this presentation, which has all the detailed links of all the studies I referenced and all the tools that I mentioned. It also has a link to join our program, our bootcamp that Henrik and others have gone through with a really, really great discount. So you get $200 discount on the program itself. And we're also throwing in the AI certification program. So one of the things that we've heard a lot, and Henrik and I talked a lot about, is like, how do I now prove to others that I have this AI capability, right? How do I now prove that I really do have built an AI team, that I have these personalized AIs built for me? So we've built something specifically towards that and allowing you to share a certified certification that says that you truly are an AI leader and that we have seen, as the team, we have seen that you've built that AI team. So what we go through in the program, if you are joining, we have 15 days of video lessons. So I'll show you kind of like what the program looks like, but this is basically every single day we do a lesson and we go through something with an assignment that gets you to a result. So actually gets you to something that you've mastered. We have 4 live sessions, and then we have all of that available on the go. So we have a mobile app, we have a website, so you can really study whenever you like, wherever you like, because I know you're all very busy, but this is really everything that you need to by the end of June. We're starting on June 6th. By the end of June, you will have mastered everything we just went through. And then, like I said, we're doing that AI certification program. So we're actually tacking on, after those 3 weeks, 2 more weeks of live support, 2 more live sessions, plus that personal examination and validated certificate. So you can really send a link to someone that says, this person, we've checked and they actually have built this AI team. And they are now this supercharged person, this super worker that you would want to have in your company. And then, as before, you also get 6 months of our pro membership. So that's 12 more live sessions, platform demos, expert instruction. The last one we had was on agentic AI, very, very interesting. An online leadership community where all of us are talking about AI 24/7, tutorials library, and you get a voucher to take the course again. Anytime within the next year, you get a voucher to take the course again, which will then allow you. This changes all the time. People say even if you join 3 months later, a lot of the material is new because there is so much change in AI. So you can take it again. So you basically get 2 for the price of 1. And in the program right now is week 1, we do all the fundamentals. So which AI is best for me? How do I really prompt these AIs effectively? How do I use AI as a thinking partner? How do we beat hallucinations, those fabrications that AI comes up with? And then we list out your personal AI use cases. Week 2, we get all the tools. So all the email tools, the writing tools, the research tool, presentation tools, meeting tools. I think we go through about 40 of them. And then finally, we really get into that personalization layer. So we do AI image generation, AI video generation, training your personal AI assistant. So building a GPT like you saw today, building your first AI automation, and then also building something with an AI agent. Okay, so all of that, and you see some wonderful program and community members on the left-hand side here. All of that available to you. You can go to this URL right here, flexos.org/lead with AI. I'll put it in the chat as well. Or just wait until you get the email. You can click the link there and you can sign up. We're starting on June 6th. And as always, it's a limited amount of slots. And it would be great to see some of you there. Okay, with that said, over to some Q&A. Any questions after this you have about, okay, that sounds all great in theory, as always. How do I now make it reality? And I think I saw one already from Andy, Henrik, who's asking, when you use that first GPT with the weak signals, you saw that there's no, there's no attribution, right? The GPT is just making something up. How do you know that it's actually valid?
Yeah, exactly. It's a good question, Andy, and thank you for posting it. So I actually asked Dan before this session, should we really go deep in showing these different agents? So obviously that GPT that I built is researching all of those early signals without showing the actual link to the source. But if I would be doing this, in a time frame that is a bit longer than the 5 minutes we had today, I would obviously also do that work with the deep research. Couple that, I would also run it via Claude. I would also run it via the truth finder and the falsifier to make sure that what I am receiving from those early signals is double checked. So of course, yes, it's a great question, Andy. Fair one too.
And I think I saw one from Brian as well. Out of like all of these AI tools, and you can say this, right? Because you're working in a large enterprise similar to Brian. You have your own AI tools, then there's the stuff that the company provides. What's the rule there? How do you make sure that that's all stays within what's possible, but also what's accepted over there?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Brian, because I forgot to say it in the beginning of this presentation, is that the team or the real sovereign stack that I have developed over time is a private investment, what we just saw on the screen today. But also, of course, on the top of that, I have the Microsoft solutions with Copilot, because we are a Microsoft company. We are I would say for the internal things, the real secret stuff, of course, you use the Copilot versions and the Microsoft solutions. I am educated enough, thanks to Dan, to take decisions on what I actually run through my private sovereign stack and the professional one. So there will be some bifurcation, as you're right, Brian, but I think we will never get away from that. Shadow AI is a big thing, especially in countries and companies that are slow starters, because all of the individuals and the employees, they feel like, okay, the train has left the station, I have to kind of upskill myself.
Yeah.
That's when it happens.
Does that make sense, Brian? Any follow-up on that? You're on mute, but that's okay. That was on our Zoom bingo card. Okay. Okay. I think we're leaving it at that.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Oh, now you're
Hopefully you can hear me now.
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Here
Awesome.
you are.
Yeah, related question. And Dan, I've been on the fence either taking the FlexOX or Anthony Slumber's AI course, because that one is more specific to real estate. And that's what I'm trying to do, even within an organization. And Henrik, I appreciate your answer. And that's the dichotomy to me. We do have Microsoft Copilot tools, but they're not sufficient to what we're trying to do and what you've done in your own Substack. And I'm arriving at the same conclusion where I'm going to have to navigate through the internal policies and what we can or cannot do, and really invest in and develop my own Substack, and ensure that you know the information that I share there obviously is contained and or protected. But that's the only way to move forward. Otherwise, I think the challenge we have with large organizations is the enterprise tools are insufficient. They're not going to help us to do what you've just demonstrated, and they're going to fall farther and further behind. So that's a big challenge, I think, for the big organizations.
But there are some layers to that as well. I think, Henrik, you're seeing that already where, you know, maybe 3 to 6 months ago, Copilot was definitely behind in terms of like, you wouldn't be able to like quickly fire up like a personal assistant. You couldn't really customize it. Even just a month ago, if you wanted to edit one of those assistants, you couldn't. But it's catching up pretty quickly. And I would say like everything that Henrik just showed is available in Copilot now. You can create those custom agents. You can give them the custom instructions. And then you're doing it within kind of like the walls. Now, when it comes to something like Gamma, you know, there is PowerPoint. There's Copilot for PowerPoint, which we also go through in the course. And I would say it works pretty well. Now, does it work as well as that sort of like amazing, super well-designed startup out there? No, but that's never been the promise of the Microsoft ecosystem, is that you're going to get, you know, the absolute best on a particular thing, but you're going to get a very well protected version. But I would say overall, it's still functioning. It's still functioning quite well.
Absolutely.
So I think the Copilot, you know, the bad image it has is a little bit outdated at this point, but I would say that like most of it is now possible within it. And even this week we saw something like ChatGPT 4o image generation, which is really like, you know, miles better than anything that DALL-E offered before in ChatGPT. Took only about a month, maybe 6 weeks before it went from rolled out in ChatGPT to being rolled out in Copilot. So they're getting pretty quick now in kind of like embedding those newer models and the newer capabilities.
May I break in there, Dan? Just to, you know, add one thing that I think is interesting about this debate, and the great question from Brian is that in many large organizations, because these are the clients that I advise externally on the future work, you know, the way to unlock AI is to buy licenses, and you say, kind of, now it's unlocked. Please go ahead and use it and optimize those processes. And you know, that doesn't really work. The way to do it is to create this social curiosity movement of really making, you know, people experiment with it and ask them kind of, how can you make your job suck less, pretty much? How can you have more fun on the job with the help of AI? And really experiment around with that, because the actual tech for Copilot is not way worse than any other sovereign stack that it can develop. It's just that the approach to learning or creating that curiosity or that social movement is different. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and if you go through the steps that we've just shown, again, like it all looks good in theory, then of course you have to do it, right? Which is why I always say that you could learn all of this easily on your own, but it's nice to kind of have a structure and a program and a peer group to go through the learnings with, right? All of it is out there, but that's still helpful. It's really that personal experimentation, right? Because it's really the moment when it goes from theory to, okay, I'm now going to apply it in my job. And again, to Henrik's point, and this is what we're seeing all the really good case studies, like the Moderna case study before, the J&J case study now, where it's always about people themselves know best where AI fits in their work, right? That's why we start with, look, here's everything that AI is capable of. Now starts listing out some of these like tasks that you're doing particularly where AI could help you, and then start to find the tools and the solutions and program your assistants, etc. It starts with understanding where it would work best for you. So it actually becomes very personalized, right? I think, Henrik, that's what you've seen as well, where, you know, like, yeah, like hearing all the things about all the things that AI can do, that's great. But if it doesn't work for us personally, if it's not tailored to us and our use case and our particular needs, then what's the point?
Exactly. And I think there's another point to it also that just strengthens that message, Dan, is that, of course, I could pay around 70 sterling pound or 70 euros or $70 a month for going to the gym, right? Investing in myself, in my health. I could also decide to pay that amount of money for software as a service fees to really level my game, to bring my one-man band to the next exciting project or whatever job opportunity. So it's also kind of an investment perspective from a personal perspective. How much better do I want to become with help of AI? That's also part of it, of course.
Yeah, and that obviously links to this idea, this insight that this is now becoming something that people are really looking for. And I think I've talked to a couple of people where they are interviewing currently, and when they come in and basically say, you're not just hiring me, but you're hiring this entire team that I've built, and I know how to build more AI assistants and more automations, and I can do this within your corporate context, to Brian's point. That's very, very valuable. That still really sets you apart, because not that many people come in and say, here, I can show you this whole team that I have, right? And like all of these tools that I know how to use. So that's like, again, that's why we also focus very heavily on Copilot, because if that's relevant for you, right? Because that is such a big part of how you're going to be using AI in these companies. Mm-hmm. All right, Pooja.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Dan. Hi, Henrik. And thank you for the amazing session. It was really nice seeing that people are truly adopting it. My question is coming out of my own experience. Now, I'm a learning and development professional, and my last client was, well, Deloitte and ASML. ASML was the latest one that I work with. And the challenge that I go through, and probably you might have as well, is that these bigger organizations, the change management and adoption of AI is so risk averse that I really struggle with. Like there are people and like consultants like me who are, early adopters. We are excited. We want to know everything, make a roadmap and blah, blah, blah. But when we go to our clients and talk about, hey, especially as a learning and development professional, creating a leadership program or something like that has become a cakewalk for me because of, well, all the ChatGPTs and OpenAI resources and Gamma, for example. But I realized that companies like ASML, they really are so averse in terms of risk that all these platforms, for example, Miro, that has become like Miro on steroids after they introduced their AI version, but they're so risk averse that they are still using Miro on the older version, and all the AI parts of it are stripped down by their data team, by the legal team, by their, all sorts of teams that want to preserve their data. How do you work and, work with that mindset and be able to really bring out the best of the people's talent and the AI's talent in situations like this and with clients like this? How do you manage the change management part of it?
Yeah, Henrik, you're living that reality, so feel free to share. Yeah,
I was waiting for you to answer, Dan, but I can give a shout at that. And usually I have the same experience, working with really large organizations, because most of that of the time still the approach into the majority of cases is that they want to sandbox everything. It should be really safe. But actually, what happens now is that they are opening up. They are seeing the value of using more tools beside each other, but instead kind of developing and training super users, much like in line also with what Gwen wrote in the chat of the let the 1,000 flowers bloom strategy. You know, it's difficult to make your life and work suck less if you only maybe use Copilot, for example, because as Dan teaches in his class, he says, with help of this, what is it, Ikigai, that's the name, right? Japanese, where all of these 6 circles overlap, you really find your sweet spot and your purpose. How can you work against that Ikigai with help of AI? So I think that's the right way to use it when you talk to clients too. Are you sure that you want to have the legal department say the final word and stifling the progress, or should we go ahead and work on it?
Yeah. And I think the biggest challenge is also on the leadership perspective. They are ambassadors of change, but oftentimes they are the most resistant to change. Probably it's because they don't want to train themselves, or, who's going to take the accountability of the decision of moving into the future. But yeah, I still struggle with the change management part because
I think we all are.
People are quite ahead and the talent is there, who can use, all millennials should be able to use, I think by now, the top AI tools, but I still see that the talent industry is still far behind to harness it.
Yeah, maybe, but I think like one thing to also remember is that like all of this stuff is like maximum 3 years old, right? So behind is kind of relative, right? I think they have to go through a pretty large process, because I also totally get the other side, which is the truth is that all these AI tools are extremely data hungry, right? Because they only really work when you put a lot of data into them, right? They become powerful because you give so much data to them. So to open up any kind of AI tool, especially if it's not from within the Microsoft ecosystem, there is a lot of risk involved. So let's say it takes them another 6 to 12 months if they really are motivated to do like a Miro AI, for example, to really work with the Miro team and making sure that, again, that data, as the data previously in Miro, is like fully private and it's not being used to train some model, and there's no risk that it's got to go somewhere, right? Let's say it takes 6 to 12 months. Okay, then it takes another 6 to 12 months. Of course, there will be some delay in getting all of these things in, but eventually the truth is that they cannot get around it, right? ASML, or like, we don't have to put every company on blast. Whatever company it is, everyone will eventually have to adapt. There's no way that there's going to be a future where AI goes away, and where other companies that are competing with those companies are not going to be using AI to be a smarter, better, faster, leaner, less employee version of that company, right? So eventually they'll wake up, right? And why worry about the people that are not getting it, right? Focus on the people that are getting it. Phil Kirchner, who I think is here as well, wrote a really good article on this and has a framework around the 4 forces of change management. I can put it in the chat here. Maybe Phil, you wanna build on that, and then we go to Dean.
Yeah.
And you're also on mute, but that's good. That
great to see Dean here as well.
AI will fix all of that one day. The very short version is I appreciate the problem that you solved, and I'm a sort of change management consultant amongst other things, and people don't like change for many reasons. We don't like using AI. We don't like moving offices. We don't like switching tools. We don't like switching bosses. And one of the things that I use AI to help me with is writing a newsletter that Dan so graciously hosts for me. And I think thank you. It's just pasted in the chat. One of the recent ones I wrote about a framework that I did not invent, called the Forces Diagram. It's actually part of the Jobs to be Done framework. It's used within software development, but my team at WeWork and I used to use this years ago with our own sales teams, who were wondering, like, why doesn't someone want to move into WeWork? Or why don't they like doing it this way? Or why don't they like that building? And it is a very simple, hour or less kind of workshop you can do with yourself to try to tease out why somebody may not want to do anything. Really just like, is the problem that you're experiencing because they really don't want to change and they like the way things are today so much that they just don't want to budge? Or is it that whatever you've convinced them is this future, they don't actually think is so great? Both matter. And anyway, there's a guideline in there for just like how to do it really simply with the team. Give it a shot. Let me know if it works.
All right, well, we'll hear back. And then over to Dean.
Thank you. Well, I see a few familiar faces on here for those that don't know me. Dean Stanberry. I am the immediate past chair of the International Facility Management Association, Global Board of Directors. So I'm an operations guy. That's what I've done for my whole career. I did spend 22 years in IT before taking a right turn into real estate and facilities. But one thing Pooja mentioned that kind of triggered me. By the way, just a shout out, I just saw your episode with Isar Matis on leveraging AI. I thought that was great. You know, what I've not seen so far is us move it from starting to deploy and develop and deploy these tools is how do we operate them over time? And that's my operations background coming in, is like we need policies, standards, processes, and procedures in order for it to be effective over some period. And Dan, you even mentioned something that triggered me, and that is, you know, AI is data hungry. At least in the commercial real estate industry, the vast majority of organizations that I've been associated with and seen, their data is garbage. It's incomplete. It is, it's riddled with errors, and we have to go back and do the foundational work to basically make that data valid and trustworthy. Otherwise, there's a definition from expert system, dates back to 1980s. And it says an expert system is increasing the speed in which mistakes are made by a factor of 10. And that's what we'd end up doing, is increasing the speed in which we're making mistakes, because AI will not fix your bad data for you. And all you can do is try to fix it and then put some better mechanisms in place to catch the errors that are being introduced by humans. The problem is not the technology, it's that humans are involved, so mistakes will be made.
So
thanks for that. I just wanted to kind of put that,
no, you're
you know,
Dean, you're totally
about these. The people that are developing these, they're the leaders. Everybody wants to lead, nobody wants to manage.
story of a lifetime.
I actually have a
Exactly.
story on that, Dean, on that particular example, but I'll wait for you to finish.
Okay.
No. That was just it. I just said, you know, we got great leaders. Now we got to figure out how do we get the managers, people that actually will end up operating it on a day-to-day basis, involved and trained. That's
Great. Great.
the
Love
training is really the upskilling part.
Very good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, no, I totally hear you. Like, obviously all of this has to be managed. And I think Brian was speaking to that as well. Also kind of from within that same industry, right? There's a lot of hurdles there and a lot of work that has to be done down the line. Again, nothing really that excuses us from not adopting it, right? Because we still have to be at terms with the fact that this is out there. And in many industries, including obviously people from real estate that we also have in our community, again, there's always someone else who's going to come in and do it faster and better and compete. So I know we're at time. Really appreciate it. The great questions. It's always the most interesting part of doing these sessions. Definitely sounds like we can have a whole follow-up discussion on all kinds of other elements of this. We'll close for now. As I said, I will share all the slides. We'll send a recording of the call as well. For sure, we can answer any questions further on email that you may have, and definitely hope to see people in the program, people already in the program. See you soon. And obviously everyone who was here for the first time, hope to see you there again. We're kicking off again on June 6th. And Brian, I made a note. I'll discuss with Anthony what we can do. All right. Thanks everyone and have a great week ahead. And thanks, Pooja.